Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. I am your host, as always, Chad. Joining me is the glorious one himself, Marcus. How the heck are you, my friend?
Good man, another Tuesday night, more wrestling talk. We back in the TNA waters. Doing something a little different tonight.
So, couple quick notes. This NXT TNA show has been awful. Um, the Hardys beat Dark State, but Dark State's just a jobber team. So, like, if they didn't win, I think the Hardy Boys, under Florida law, would have been allowed to execute four of Shawn Michaels' closest relatives. That's just Florida. So obviously they're going over, but TNA's lost every other match since, and they're going to lose the main event because NXT does not give a shit about TNA. And I'm so sick of arguing people online who think, "Oh no, this is good for TNA." Yeah, it's good to lose to nimrods and douchebags who have next to no talent. Really, like you're watching NXT talent leave in mass because of how bad the pay is. I shouldn't say in mass, but you're gonna see it. You're gonna see more and more people leave. And these are the guys that are going over TNA towns. Like I'm just saying, it's not helping TNA. They may sell out, quote unquote, sell out Bound for Glory, but I think the venue they're in is like 65, 7,500 people, and they're gonna have 4,500 people in there at best. That's not a real sellout.
Yeah,
And coming
uh,
off of the Slammiversary numbers to then go to a where were they for Slammiversary? Michigan? I think they're in
win.
Michigan.
Uh, Late
It,
slam. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, they're in Michigan, right? Sorry, they're in New York. To go to an equally as big market, you're going from New York, Long Island, essentially, I think, to Boston. You should not go down in numbers. You should go. You should be within, I would say, 1,000 people either way, 6 or 8,000, or somewhere in the middle. So they're going to be around 4,500. Now maybe they'll open up more seats. That's always a possibility. It's not a likely one. That's a sign that fans tuned out after their abysmal Slammiversary showing, and it was abysmal, and that got me on a train ride of fucking thoughts. I was talking with an NWA town this week, and we started talking about Slammiversary 2015 and how bad it really was, and the reason why it was bad, for those who don't know, is that they filmed like 7 or 8 weeks of tapings across 3 or 4 days. I think it was 3 days. I think it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then they did the pay per view. But all the tapings they did were for after the pay per view. So at one of the tapings, EC3 won the world title. But on Slammiversary, he was not the world champion. In fact, they were building up his world title match that would air the Thursday after Slammiversary. Now, why did they do it this way? They were out of money. They were pinching pennies the best they could and trying to survive. Now, I still think there was a way that you could have figured this out without having to do all the tapings on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You could have done Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Why they didn't do it, I don't know. Again, it's one of those things that boggles the mind. Maybe the arena they used was going to be used for something else. Unlikely, but possible. So we started talking more and more about the events that were happening around TNA that happened after Slammiversary, immediately after, or happened just before on the tapings or what have you. And I came to the conclusion that if they had done this right, if they had really done this right, 2015 would have been the rebound year, not 2017. Because 2017, 2018, I think, was the start of the rebound for TNA. It took a while. Rebound takes a long time in wrestling. But I think it would have worked. I think, by 2020, 2021, TNA would have been where they are today, but with a much better roster. Now, the reason why it didn't happen, I think, is because of 2020, 2015. It was so bad. No money, no investors. They were screwing themselves left, right, and center. They really fucked up their entire Spike TV deal the year before. Had they not rehired Vince Russo, it's very likely that Spike TV would have kept them on until they changed into Paramount Network. So it's a little mind boggling to me that they couldn't pull all this off when you had all the talent and a lot of really good, strong storylines. And I think it could have worked. I think it could have, gotten fans interested. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the actual show. We're going to talk about the bell to bell tapings that happened afterwards, specifically the following Thursday event where EC3 wins the world title. And we're going to try to come up with a better Slammiversary than we got on television. Did they just skip over Frankie Kazarian and Joe Hendry's entrances for this NXT TNA fucking show? This show is trash.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. But real quick, speaking of Spike, me and Chad will never forget the ending of Spike, but the rise of the legendary Spike social media intern.
Whoever the
That was
the gentleman was who was on Spike TV's Twitter account, I
God.
hope you're having the best life. So, and also I think this kind of works because this is a decade ago. This is 10 years ago. I was still in my 20s when this was going on. That's wild to me. Um, One of the things that I did want to talk about this week that we may just wait until next week. That way we can talk about Bound for Glory because that's this Sunday. Um, that is this Sunday. We'll talk about Bound for Glory. We'll talk about the NXT TNA. We'll talk about Slaughterhouse. Good show. I like Slaughterhouse. You're not gonna watch Slaughterhouse and be like, "Oh my God, they put AEW's in-ring action to shame." They don't, but it's still a good show. And I can go on a rant about why I think AEW is struggling, but I think it's because they're trying to find one style of wrestler for their entire program. That's not exactly the way to go about things, but anyway. But I've been accused of being an AEW fanboy.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So let's go through this. If we have any time at the end, we'll briefly talk about Bound for Glory. But I'm very disenfranchised with the current TNA product, so this is what I want to do this week.
Yeah. Right there with you.
Yeah, this is what I want to do this week. I want to talk about TNA when it wasn't as bad as this. Honestly, like 10 years ago, if they had a more coherent taping schedule and didn't throw things like lockdown on weekly television, dare I say, Bound for Glory Slammiversary 2015 better than what we've been getting this year. With all due respect, but a rematch with the Elegance brand and Inspiration, Tessa versus Gia Miller, Kalani Jordan, who's fine, versus Indy Hartwell, who's not. These aren't good matches, like by any means. So we're gonna,
Would you say with the roster alone for sure, right?
yeah, I would say, yeah, and we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about all that. So first, what I want to do is read off who we have on the roster right now. Now, not every name is under a full time contract as of this point in late June, early July 2015, but these are all talents that they had on their show heading into Slammiversary or just after. So the idea that you couldn't have had them for Slammiversary is nonsense. At this point, GFW, Global Force Wrestling, Jeff Jarrett's second promotion that he tried to launch, has just started gaining some type of momentum. It's more like a turtle crawling up a 90-degree incline, but it's something, right? So you have Jeff Jarrett, Bobby Roode, Drew Galloway, Drew McIntyre, however you want to call him, Eric Young, the Hardy Boys, Matt and Jeff Hardy. You have a young EC3 who's undefeated, Tyrus, Mr. Anderson, Bobby Lashley, James Storm, Nick Aldis backslash Magnus, Awesome Kong, not at her peak, but still pretty good. Brooke Tessmacher. You have Taryn Terrell. You have Jade and Marty Bell, who make up the Dollhouse. You have the Wolves, Eddie Edwards and Davey Richards. You have Austin Aries, who is at this point tagging with Bobby Roode to form the Dirty Heels. You have Bram, the former NWA World Heavyweight Champion Tom Latimer. Uh, you have Matt Morgan for a one night spell at Slammiversary. You got Robbie and Jesse Goddard's the good good bros, the Bromans. You have DJZ. You have TJP, Manic. You have Grotto. You have Rockstar Spud, Tigre Uno. You have the beautiful people, Velvet Sky and Angelina Love. You have Chris Melendez, the one-legged former Army officer who was with TNA for a hot moment. You have Vader. He popped up for I think just one show, but maybe two, just before Slammiversary. He was part of Bram's build-up for the event. You have Rockstar Spud, Abyss, Crazy Steve, Mark Andrews, aka Mandrews, Nor Furnham. If you know anything, I think he was one of the librarians that kicked off AEW. Shark Boy, Mahabali Shera, who was going by Koya. You have Tongaloa, then known as Micah. Plus, you had the Beatdown Clan, which had MVP Hernandez, Loki, and Kenny King. And then you have the Rising, who was made up by Eli Drake, who should be on there somewhere. Um, you have Eli Drake, Tongaloa, then known, of course, as Micah, and of course Drew McIntyre. So you had the beginnings of a really great fucking roster, really great roster. But let's talk about the calamity that was Slammiversary 2015. The whole show was built around Jeff Jarrett's return to the company. Jeff Jarrett had left at the end of 2013 following the debacles with Hulk Hogan leaving. You know, basically Hogan left, and from what I was always told, they Dixie and company pivoted to Jarrett, and Jarrett's like, nah, I'm good, and left. At this point, he decided to launch a new promotion. We interviewed Jeff Jarrett around this time. I want to say it was the start of the year, 2015, or maybe the start of 2014. No, it had to be the start of 2015. And he was very candid about what he was trying to do, who he was trying to do it with. He had the Good Brothers for a hot moment. I think the Young Bucks wrestled a few shows for him. He launched Karrion Kross. He was the first major North American guy to pick up on Karrion Kross, Killer Kross, whatever you want to call him. Brought him in. He featured Nick Aldis as his main guy. He was doing some interesting things. I don't know if you ever watched the Global Force tapings. They're okay. They do have some good matches, but they're at best okay. But this would signal his return to the company. One of the things that he did when he came back to the company, now this wasn't a full time thing, it was a partnership. He brought the Global Force guys with him after Bound for Glory, and they did a little bit of an invasion for 5 or 6 weeks. And I think the big moments where Jeff Jarrett won the rechristened King of the Mountain Championship, and Brian Myers, who now is with the company full time, and Trevor Lee won the TNA World Tag Team titles. So that was kind of like the whole big thing. Let's see if I can find the card for the big blow off match. But so Jeff Jarrett came back, Karen came back. It was supposed to be like this really big thing, and unfortunately, I do think one of the biggest issues that came with this is that TNA was hemorrhaging money and didn't have a true investor. So they didn't really have a lot of finances to be able to make any of this work. The way the tapings were set up, the rivalries, all of that, it just did not work. And this became part of the issue, right? So TJ Black was also there. Uh, the feud looked like it happened around the end of July, so it was about a month after Slammiversary. Um, but the card itself wasn't great. Let's see. Tigre Uno, who's already the X Division champion, I think that aired. What was it, the night before, or the Thursday before? Um, he faced off with DJZ and Manic. It was a fine match. Cage match gave it a 6.54. I don't. TJP to me is the Brad Armstrong of his generation. He's not great. DJZ I thought was fine, but I didn't think he had the true charisma to be a star. Tigre Uno won the title because they were trying to do a partnership with his promotion at the time, and I don't remember who he was working with, but that's essentially why he won. Robbie E and Jesse Goddard's faced off in a blow up of the bromans of it all. The bromans, I think, only had like a 2 year run, if that. I think they formed in 2013, and I want to say they won the title at Bound for Glory 2013. And about a year and a half, 20 months later, it looks like, they had split for good. Let's see. The Bromans defeated Gunner and James Storm to win the World Tag Team titles at Bound for Glory. Also, the last night, AJ Styles wrestled for the world title. So this was fine. Their value were as a tag team, and I don't know why anyone thought breaking them up was a good idea because it wasn't. Because as solo stars, they weren't. Then we got Bram versus Matt Morgan in a basically legend killer esque run for Bram. He was going to rewrite the history of TNA. He faced off a bunch of guys in TNA at the time. Matt Morgan was one of them. Vader was another. See if I can't find all the guys he faced in that month. And of course, Bram was one of the first big stars on NXT when he was tagging with Big Con or Connor or whatever his name was. You remember that?
Yeah,
When they're part of the Ascension.
yeah. Uh-huh.
So, all right. So heading into this, he would face off with Bobby Roode, Crimson, Joseph Park, Vader, Mr. Anderson, and Magnus. Those were the guys that he was facing heading into this little match with Matt Morgan. It was not a great thing to watch. Um, then we get Davey versus Austin Aries. Eddie wasn't on the show. Eddie was fine. From all intents and purposes, from everything that I saw, Eddie was not hurt. Eddie wrestled at the television tapings just before. There's no sign that I could find that he had been hurt or couldn't wrestle for Slammiversary. I think part of the issue is they just didn't have a spot for him, which I think is insanity. They did give Davey and Austin a decent match on the card. I think it was the actual opener, if I remember correctly. No, it's the fourth match, and it's probably the best match of the nights. James Storm and Magnus get some love, and the main event gets some love. But this would be my pick for the main event of the night. Then we got a triple threat knockouts match. It's Awesome Kong. I'm sorry, this is a 2-on-3 handicap match. Awesome Kong and Brooke Tessmacher took on the Dollhouse, which was, of course, Jade, Mia Yim, Marty Bell, and Taryn Terrell. And it was ass. I don't know what they were trying to do with the Dollhouse. It felt like a cheap version of the Beautiful People, but more risque
Yeah.
and more salacious because like one of the things that they always did was like wear like short schoolgirl skirts and then like you could see their underwear like visibly.
Yeah.
Like in the photo I have, and this is a TNA specific. Like this is from TNA's website. You could see what they had Jade wearing, and it wasn't great. I think part of the issue was also at this point, Awesome Kong's knees had started to go, and she was far from the wrestler she was, but she was wrestling like 150, 200 times in Japan for like a decade. It's not surprising that she wasn't what she used to be. And it felt like the Knockouts brand didn't have the wrestlers you would hope them to have at this point, fortunately. Nick Aldis, Magnus, whatever you want to call him, took on James Storm. This was during the James Storm trying to kill Mickey James storyline. So that was fun.
Always room for one more. Right.
Right? Like, oh my God, watch out for that train. So this was a bad feud. I think objectively this was a bad feud. And it was boring. It was weak. James Storm, I never thought was the solo star so many people wished he was. Magnus, I think, was severely hampered with the way they pushed him into the main event sequence because he basically couldn't beat anyone, and when that's kind of your situation, when you can't beat anyone, oh, it doesn't look good for you at all, like at fucking all. And I still think they were struggling to get him back over at this point, heading into
Yeah,
Slammiversary. And this would actually be one of his
that
last matches too, I think.
yeah, because that was after all the Dixie stuff, right?
The Dixie stuff was 2014, and this was kind of he did like a loose feud, I think, with Tom Latimer, like where they were friends and then not, and then they came into this
Yeah, yeah.
storyline, and it wasn't great.
He never rebounded.
No,
He had momentum, um, like prior to that whole Dixie situation. That situation killed every bit of it because his matches was overbooked and he looked weak. He looked like a champion, but nothing else about him was champion like. And then that whole thing took a backseat to whatever was going on with Dixie, and it was
hmm
more important putting her through a table than it was, you know, was his whole world championship thing. So that just all fell through the thing. And Spud suffered doing all that too, and that's saying a lot, considering the fact that oftentimes he was the brightest part of that whole thing.
he was, and unfortunately, this would be the last match Magnus would wrestle at the time for TNA. That took us to the semi-main where you had some talent. It was EC3, Lashley, and Mr. Anderson, but they threw Tyrus in there for some reason. He bogged down the whole fucking match. It could have been fine. It really could have been. EC3 was a hot up and comer. Lashley and Anderson were doing all they could to help put up the next generation of guys. Who'd have thought that 10 years later they're still going? But EC3 gets the win, and it's fine. Main event, you know, gets some reviews. It gets some good reviews. Jeff Jarrett defeats Bobby Roode, Drew Galloway, Eric Young, and Matt Hardy for the now christened King of the Mountain title, the former TNA Legends, TNA Television, TNA Global Championship. And this was a good match, but it kind of didn't make a lot of sense because the whole thing was about Jeff Jarrett returning. However, most of the stuff that mattered happened after it. After Jeff Jarrett's Bound for Glory return or Slammiversary return, he would be inducted or announced for an inductee into the TNA Hall of Fame. He would start a series of interviews building up to Global Force's arrival, and he would be, I think, if I remember correctly, what was the other? Was it gonna? I think that's it. I think that's it for. But here's the other things that were happening at the time, right before, right after. EC3 beats Kurt Angle to win the world title in a really like this is what. Honest to goodness, I think this is one of TNA's best shows of all time. It's called Bell to Bell. They had 4 matches, 5 matches, and all of them were fantastic, save for the dark match. The dark match was the Wolves versus the Beatdown Clan. You had a 4-on-3 handicap match with the Beatdown Clan, Hernandez, Kenny King, and Loki, and MVP taking on the Rising Galloway, Drake, and Micah. The losing team disbands, and it could have been awesome. Drake, Loki eliminates Micah. Drake then beats, I think Kenny King, beats Kenny King. I think Drew Galloway eliminates Loki. Drew Galloway eliminates Kenny King. No, I think Eli Drake gets disqualified. So Galloway then runs the gamut and gets beaten by MVP. It's a fun little match, worth going out to check out. To conclude the best of 5 series that the Dirty Heels and the Wolves were having, they did a 30-minute Iron Man match where Aries gets the win with like 3 minutes left to go or 4 minutes left to go, and then Eddie gets one right before the 1 minute mark to go. and then Davey somehow shockingly rolls up Bobby right before the time expires. It was incredible, and I don't think we talk enough about the Wolves because their run really was only 2 years. After 2015, come 2016, both Eddie and Davey would start dealing with injuries. Eddie would end up winning the world title. Davey would turn heel. Then Davey would leave. But for those 2 years, I don't think the Wolves had an equal in wrestling, let alone in TNA. Especially with the fact that they had great matches with the Hardys, the Team 3D. They had great matches with Dirty Heels. They made the Bromans look good. So, fantastic match. Then we go to Taryn Terrell retaining her belt against Awesome Kong and Brooke. Then the main event, of course, EC3 beats Kurt Angle. And Kurt Angle at the time has a benign tumor on his neck. And this would be his last match on Impact Television for the year. And I'm thinking to myself, if you're building a show, right? If you're building a major event, Marcus, Jeff Jarrett's returning. Why not then focus on Kurt Angle's, absence as well? I don't think you put them in a match with each other. I think you do what you did. You have EC3 and Kurt Angle headline Slammiversary, right? But I think you cut the promo, you cut the opening with the acknowledgement that this will be Kurt Angle's last match for some time. We don't know when Kurt Angle will be back. And if Kurt Angle wins tonight, the participants of, because I think what we would do is keep the Bound for Glory, keep the King of the Mountain match, right? We'll change up the participants, but you keep the King of the Mountain match, and you just say that the four other men in the King of the Mountain match would then face one another to crown the world champion on the next night, knowing that that's not going to happen. But that's how you announce it. So you come in with Jeff Jarrett's prodigal son return and the departure of another icon, befelt by his own body, and in between the rise of the next generation, specifically EC3. I think if you set Slammiversary up to look like that, instead of the hodgepodge of nonsense you got going on here, I think it turns out as one of the best shows ever. Truly. One of the best damn shows ever. So now it comes down to the idea of like, okay, so like how do we make this card the best, right? Here's the things that are coming up. Jarrett's in the Hall of Fame. Jeff Hardy's about to return. I think Jeff Hardy had been out of action for a few months at this point. Let's find it. Because I think he got real banged up in his tag matches with the Hardys, with the Wolves, I mean. And if that's the case, I can understand why he wasn't around. But I can't remember when all that was actually happening. Let's see. He would come back and feud exactly like right off the bat with EC3. So like they weren't stupid, but he would also be severely limited. Um, so it looks like even though Jeff Hardy returns television around this time, he does not have another match. It looks like he had a six-man tag match with Davey Richards and the Hardys against the Revolution, Abyss, Koya, and Manic in March, and that would be his last match for the year for some reason. He would come back, of course, in 2016. He'd come back in 2016 and wrestle until the end of the year, November. And this is like where we get a lot of the brother Nero stuff, the Broken Matt stuff. That started around here. Maybe that was 2017. Yeah, I think it was the start of 2017. Maybe not. No, it was the start of this year. Ignore me. I'm trying to figure this shit out in real time. But so 2016 would be the start of the start of all that. So he wouldn't be able to wrestle, but you'd have him out for television. You would have, of course, the Rising and the Beatdown Clans final feud Uh, it didn't last long, and the Rising really only existed to feud with the Beatdown Clan. In fact, Drew McIntyre debuted and busted open Low Key's head with a pipe. So like their whole that stable's whole existence was just to be fed to the BDC. Of course, EC3 beats Angle. The Brumwins break up. Beautiful People have kind of a send off match before they both depart the company. And of course, the Global Force Wrestling invasion. On top of that, I would say the brief return of Vader to the company in one of Vader's last high profile matches. So let's redo this if with the assumption that we can bend and fold time and space, but not improve TNA's budget too much. So I think the main event is obviously EC3. EC3 versus Kurt Angle. With the idea that if Angle loses, right, the bound for the individuals who are in the King of the Mountain match would then face with one. And I think then we go with the King of the Mountain match. I think you have Jeff Jarrett in there, right? Um, Looking at who we had at Slammiversary, we had Lashley and Mr. Anderson. They weren't in a match. I think you could put them in here, right? And I don't think you'll miss too much. I think you keep out. You definitely keep out Bobby Roode because you're going to do the TNA World Tag Team Title Iron Man match with the Wolves.
And they gave them a win.
Oh, TNA won. The Wolves versus the Dirty Heels. Okay, so you got those two going at it. Let's see. I think we stick with the Knockouts Championship the way it was on Bell to Bell. Just the Knockouts. It's Awesome Kong versus Brooke versus Taryn Brow. I think we then do a tag team match hitting the Beautiful People versus the Dollhouse in a loser leaves town situation. Did you hear anything about whatever Santino and Ava were saying at the end of the show? Because I got it on mute.
No, I had it on me. I tried to turn it down a little bit and listen, but I don't want to tune you out. So no, I'll catch it after. I think the gist of it is she gonna have a battle royal next week
Oh,
for the
jeez.
women. I guess it's becoming a new challenger, and she opened up the invitation to the knockouts.
Oh,
Accept.
great. All right, so right now we got what? We got one, two, three, four, five. We're gonna do the 3-on-4 stable disbands match. Gonna be who is it? Rising EDC. Okay. Now one, two, three, four, five, six. So let's eliminate who we have so far. We got Drew, Bobby, and Jeff Jarrett in matches. We can cut them out. We still have EY and Matt Hardy. Jeff Hardy's active, right? We got EC3, no Tyrus. We got Anderson, Lashley. There we go. We got all those. Love. Cut them out. Landis, Vader, Rockstar Spuds, this Crazy Steve, Mark Andrews, Noel Burnham, Shark Boy, Muhammad, Mike and Eli Drake are accounted for. Okay, so here's who we have left. We have Eric Young, Matt Morgan. We can use Jeff Hardy, just not in a match. Tyrus, James Storm, Magnus, Bram, Matt Morgan, Robbie E, Jesse Goddard. Preferably, I'd like to keep him as the Bromans, but we can negotiate. TJZ, Manic, Grado, Tigre, Uno, Chris Melendez, Vader, Rockstar Spud, Abyss, Crazy Steve, Mark Andrews, North Furnham, Shark Boy, Mahabali, and that's it. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got 6 matches. How many do we have for Slammiversary? 1, 2, 3, 8. Probably fit 9. I think we could fit 9. So we're gonna do 9. We're gonna do 9 matches, Marcus. How does that sound? We have 3 matches open, Marcus. I'm thinking if you're on with it, we do. Because they're not doing Decay yet, so I don't feel like we can put Abyss and Crazy Steve together. But I'm gonna do it anyway. Let's do Abyss, Crazy Steve versus the Bromans. We need another tag team. If we can get 2 more tag teams, that'd be even better, Mark. All right. What are we thinking about putting? Cause we have Grado, right? Yeah. What about if we put Grado and Rockstar Spud together for a tag team match? That annoy you too much? I know you weren't a big Grado fan. I think I lost Marcus. Marcus, you there? Hmm. Well, if he's not here to object, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna put.
Oh, sorry about that.
There you are. So what I was saying was, I'm trying to think of a tag match. I'm trying to get as many guys on the card as possible. I'm thinking we
Yeah.
start the Decay stable soon because they're going to be bigger into
Okay.
2016, especially when they bring in Rosemary, right? So if we pair Crazy
Yeah.
Steve and Abyss together, put them in a 4 corners match with the Bromans, we need 2 more tag teams then. I'm thinking Grado and Rockstar Spud. I know that sounds like a hellacious idea because I know you weren't a Grado
No,
fan.
I actually dig it. I dig it. I dig it. That could work in strangest of ways.
All right, so that leaves us with 1 more team we need to get. Grado is off the board.
Let's
Let's see. I'll read you who we got
get
left.
Storm and okay.
All right, so we have EY Matt Hardy. Jeff Hardy we can use, but he can't be used as a wrestler because he's still recovering. Tyrus, James Storm, Magnus, Bram, Matt Morgan, DJZ, Manic, T. Gray Uno, Chris Melendez, Vader, Mark Andrews, Nor Furnham, Shark Boy, and Mahabali Shera. Spelled Mahabali or Mahabali, sorry.
Storm is available.
Yeah, Storm's available, so is Magnus, so is Bram, so is Matt Morgan, so is EY, so is Matt Hardy.
2015. Don't know. But I guess Storm and Sheer.
Yeah, because they're doing that, I think.
Yeah.
Is it what was that group
Mm-hmm.
called?
Always room for one more revolution.
That's right, the Revolution. I think you're right. I think they were doing that at the time. And you want to put Storm and Shara together?
Yeah, that'll be veteran with the muscle. Yeah.
Okay. All right, I like that so far. Off.
You said you needed another team.
No, we got so that would be our 4th team is them.
Okay. All right.
So
Because
that's
I had an auxiliary being DZG and Uno. Go.
That's not a bad idea. All right, so that takes us down to two matches. We need to do an X Division title match. And right now, the X Division champion is Tigre Uno. Tigre Uno. So we got, honestly, I think this might be a good idea. Um, we do an Ultimate X match. I think that works. And then we put in iconic high flyers and talent that needs to be on the card. So we'll do EY because he was a former X Division champion. We'll put Matt Hardy because he's got some name value and he can help elevate the concept. We'll have Jeff Hardy serving as a special guest referee, special outside enforcer. Hardy, outside enforcer. Make sure things stay legal. But also, I think we throw DJZ, Matic, and Mark Andrews into it. We can get some bodies that can bounce.
Yeah, I just throw in a little wrinkle. I have like a one night only return of Zima Ion, but that's just that's
So you would have DJZ revert back to Zima Ion for the night?
yeah, that's what he was exhibition champion.
Yeah, he was. We could do that. Have DJZ come back as Zima Ion for one night. Xemaion. Is that how it's spelled? All right. So the X Division Championship Ultimate X match. Tigre Uno defends against Eric Young, Zima Ion, Manic, Matt Hardy, and Mark Andrews. How does that strike your fan?
I dig it.
That's pretty. We really don't need to use Tyra, so I'm not worried about that. I think what we do is continue the idea with what we had, with what they were trying to do with both Magnus and Bram, which is put somebody over on the way out, but also use some names. So I think maybe what we do, we have Magnus team up with. So here's my thought with this. I think instead of having Bram do the Randy Orton of it all, right? I think we have Bram bully people. North Furnham's a small dude. Shark Boys, at this time he's getting a little paunchy. Chris Melendez has one leg, so I think what we do is we put Melendez, Burnham, and Shark Boy versus Bram. Actually, maybe we'll replace Vader with Furnham. We'll give Furnham to Bram as kind of an underling. We'll add Matt Morgan. We'll add Tyrus, and it'll be a 4-on-4 match. I think that's everyone. I think we got everyone on the card.
That is that. Now you putting that on the card, or is that a opener before the opening match?
No, I would put that on the card. It would be a one fall to a finish, and it's basically just to get some guys like Shark Boy Vader and Matt Morgan some screen time. Bring them back for the pomp and circumstance, and also Bram will end up beating Magnus. I would say this match goes no more than 10 minutes. Morgan and Vader can hit their big moves. Furnham can heal out and develop into an underlay, like a lackey for Bram. While Magnus looks strong, Melendez and Shark Boy, try to rally, but ultimately Bram beats Magnus to win. That's how I would do that. Let's see. A lot of multi-man. In fact, I think we have one single match. Also, we need to find two more people for King of the Mountain. Whoops.
Well,
We got to find two more people for King of the Mountain. We stacked the card too much. We're gonna change that around. All right, so I'm thinking what we do is we drop down the X Division Ultimate X match. We take Eric Young out, and we put Eric Young in the
Matt
main
Hart.
event. Or not the main event, but the King of the Mountain. So we're moving Eric Young from the Ultimate X match to the King of the Mountain match with Lashley and Anderson and Jarrett. I want to keep Matt in this, so we're not going to take Matt out. I think what we're going to do. I think what we'll do is we'll take Matt Morgan. Yeah, we'll take Matt Morgan out of the multi-man tag. And we'll put Matt Morgan in the King of the Mountain match.
Yeah, I like that.
Going with the idea of this being an anniversary show, and thus, guys are going to be everywhere. So he's going to be in the King of the Mountain match, and that means we'll take Shark Boy out of the 6-man, keep Vader in, and then we'll add Shark Boy to the Ultimate X match.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Hell yeah! All right, so the way I'm thinking, got a lot of tag matches. How do we divide this? All right, so what I'm thinking, we're gonna move the knockouts. So this is all about flow. It has nothing to do about who should be where and who shouldn't be where. All right. So we're gonna have. We're gonna open with the X Division Championship match. Then we're gonna go to the loser leaves town match. I don't know what's going on with Discord, man. We got to find a different outlet because Discord sucks. I fucking hate this outlet. Um, so we're gonna start with the X Division Ultimate X match. Then we're gonna do the loser leaves town Dollhouse versus Beautiful People. Then we're gonna do the 6-man Team Magnus versus Team Bram. The Knockouts title match will then go next. No. Yes. It's here. Too high up. All right. We're changing things around again. Okay. So some of these are going to be quicker matches than initially thought. Um, would this work better as a? I think it will. Okay. All right. So instead of this being a tag team battle, yeah, that works. Okay. Yeah, that'll work. All right. So here's the official card. Redone with only the talent available to us. X Division Championship match, Ultimate X match. Jeff Hardy, Outside Enforcer. Tigre Uno versus DJZ/Lee Mahan versus Manic versus Matt Hardy versus Mark Andrews versus Shark Boy. We're going to do a tag team battle royal. All men enter in intervals of 1 minute. Both men have to be eliminated for the team to be eliminated. Over the top rope only. Abyss and Crazy Steve versus the Bromans versus Grado and Spud versus the Revolution, which is James Storm and Shera. Then we're going to do a loser leaves town. Let's make this a tornado tag. Marcus, can you still hear me? Now, Marcus, can you now hear me?
Yeah.
Discord is such ass. All right, so the Dollhouse and Beautiful People match is going to be a tornado tag. Then we're going to have Magnus, Melendez, and Vader taking on Bram, Furnham, and Tyrus in a 6-man tags, one fall to a finish. The triple threat for the Knockouts Tag Team title, it's going to be Brooke versus Taryn versus Awesome Kong. Then we're going to do the 3-on-4 stable disbands match, elimination style. Discord bugging me. Bugging me. We're just going to stop the stream and just record the rest of it, so that way I don't have to keep hearing that on the. No, that's not good. Discord's the No, if it's correct, there may be a problem. Anyhow, Ozil. Then we got the Wolves versus Dirty Hills in the Iron Man match. King of the Mountain's going to be Jarrett Morgan, Anderson Lashley Young, and the main event EC3 versus Kurt Angle. So only one singles match, but like if WrestleMania 2000 can get away with it, we can get away with it. Now we could probably modify this a bit. We could do a full-on battle royal to clear some space, but that still doesn't help our problem with getting singles matches. Because two of the biggest feuds are tag matches. The next biggest feud is a triple threat. So I think this will just have to be what it has to be. But I think it's a lot better than what we got because the other one had Bram versus Matt Morgan, Robbie E versus Jesse Goddard, Austin Aries versus Davey Richards, which is good. Storm and Magnus. So like they went with the singles matches and it was fine, but it wasn't great. But I think our card is better. I think it's tighter. I think it focuses on a combination of building up young stars while also getting main eventers over. So yeah, I'm gonna just Marcus, if you can hear me, I'm gonna hang up because I don't know what's going on with Discord at the moment. Maybe if I call you back, it won't dropping out so often. All right, Marcus. All right, we should be back. I don't know what the fuck's going on. All right, now Marcus. Admittedly, this is not the strongest card I think we can make, but I think this is a pretty good one, wouldn't you say? I think I may have lost Marcus even more. Well, this show has just gone off the rails. Uh, Marcus, can you hear me? I don't know if Discord's working anymore. Well, assuming it is, assuming it isn't. I think this is a solid card, right? I may try to continue to, find the right notes because I feel like I'm close. I don't feel like this is perfect. So we'll see what we can do about this more so on the website realnerdcard.com. I don't know what's going on with the internet and the connection with Skype. I think Marcus is here. No, he's not. And with how much issues we're having staying connected, I think we're going to end the show this week instead of trying to just power through. Because this is mostly what I wanted to talk about, was what the card could look like. And I think at the end of the day, this looks like a pretty good card. You're going to have a lot of guys that I think won't enjoy the fact that there's a lot of multi-man matches. But this is the Japanese fan in me coming out and just scores of singles, scores of multi-man matches. So, with that being said, I'm going to run down Paradox Kid from Marcus. That's his Twitter, Paradoxkid. You can also find him on his other podcast, The True Penny Show, TruePennyShow. You can find me on Twitter at Chad Nerdcorp, ChadNerdCorp, and on the Instagram at Chad Photohut, ChadSPHOTOHUT. That's ChadSPHOTOHUT. We'll be back next week for another show, hopefully one with better internet service. um, yeah, it's not been great. What else are we supposed to plug? The website, realnerdcorp.com, youtube.com/The Wrestling Underground, twitch.tv/The Wrestling Underground, or it's just Wrestling Underground. I don't remember which one it is right at the top of my head. But next Tuesday, we're going to talk the fallout of Bound for Glory, the results of Bound for Glory, the overall show of Bound for Glory, the NXT of it all. We'll also talk about MLW Slaughterhouse, which was this past week. Check it out if you haven't yet. Damn good show, a lot of fun. Also, they've announced that Shotzi Blackheart and Priscilla Kelly are going to be doing something. So Priscilla Kelly's in the company now. Plus, Karrion Kross and Scott Bordeaux are going to be showing up. They're loading up the roster, and I think their next few shows are going to be can't miss. So check them out here in a little bit. They're good stuff. But yeah, next Tuesday we'll be back hopefully with a better connected show. But for Marcus Green, I'm Chad Porto. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. Remember, as always, to watch more wrestling. And with that, I will just say good night.